Hey friends, Mrs. Burkett here. You're not going to see me today because I want to do a really good job of helping you enjoy, appreciate, and understand our feature story, Mr. Putter and Tabby See the Stars. Now, I said yesterday this is our first chapter book that we read together. Some of you may be reading chapter books already, but probably most of us aren't. The genre is fiction. That means we know it's a made up story, and there are some clues that help us know that we're reading a fiction story. But it really makes a difference if readers stop and think when they're reading. Am I reading information? Am I reading a nonfiction story? Or am I reading a fictional story, something that's made up? So, our essential question: what can we see in the sky? Read about what Mr. Putter and Tabby see in the nighttime sky. So hopefully this is your second reading. And tomorrow, when you take your little quiz, your little screen or your essential question end of story, you can go back and read it a third time. I expect you to go back in the story so you can do a good job on that when you do that on Thursdays, okay? So remember, one of our strategies as readers is to reread, to check for understanding, and we're especially working on sequence this week. So we're looking for words that will signal to us the first event, the next event, then what happened, after that, what happened. So be looking for those words so as readers we can get really good at knowing the sequence and tracking the sequence of stories. Sometimes stories are not written in chronological order. In other words, sometimes they can hop around a little bit and it can get a little confusing. So it's really important for readers to learn how to keep track of what's happening and when it's happening. So Mr. Putter and Tabby See the Stars by Cynthia Ryland, illustrated by Arthur Howard. And we see right away there's 3 chapters here. Chapter 1 is Logs. Chapter 2 is Grumble. Oh, that makes me think of Starry Night and the girls grumbling about, the homework and Daddy getting out the telescope. And chapter 3, Stars. And I love the illustrations. So the author Howard has done a great job of giving us illustrations, made everything kind of blue, watercolored, and making us think of the nighttime sky, okay? So let's see. I want to have my pointer here. Focus mouse. Is that going to work? Chapter 1, Logs. So here he is on the swing snoozing. It's not nighttime yet. Mr. Putter and his fine cat Tabby loved to sleep. They could sleep anywhere. They slept in chairs, in swings, in cars, in tubs, and sometimes in the laundry room. And there's a little comment in the sequence. So who and what is this story about? It's about Mr. Putter and his cat who liked to sleep all the time, everywhere. Mr. Putter and Tabby also slept in a bed. Of course, most of the time, sleeping in a bed was just fine. Mr. Putter plumped his pillow, Tabby squished hers, and then they slept like logs. Now, that's not literal, right? Mr. Putter and Tabby are not logs, but the author is using a simile. Remember, we talked last week about like and as to kind of describe for us like a log is just really flat, heavy, not rattled at all. So they're sleeping heavy. But one night, and there's our first sequence, right? One night, one of the logs could not sleep. So first, Tabby and Mr. Putter could not sleep one night. I think that's first, or is it first? Let's see. Let's go to the next chapter. Chapter 2, Grumble. Mr. Putter was the log who could not sleep. He could not sleep because he had eaten too many pineapple jelly rolls at Mrs. T. Berry's house. So when you sleep like a log, you're just sleeping really heavy, really sound. Nothing could disturb you or wake you, and that's normally how Mr. Putter and Tabby sleep. They sleep like logs. That's who it's about and what's happening. Mr. and Putter and his cat Tabby like to sleep, and they usually sleep like logs. But something had happened that caused Mr. Putter to not be able to sleep. Mr. T-Berry was Mr. Putter's good friend and neighbor, and she liked to feed him. She liked to feed everybody, but most of all, she liked to feed Mr. Putter. Okay, so there's some kind of a problem. A lot of times in a fiction story, the main character will run into a problem. And I think maybe, I don't know if Mrs. Teaberry's a problem, but all of those pineapple jelly rolls, and a jelly roll is kind of like, you know what a jelly roll is. You can buy them into boxes, or maybe someone in your family makes them. Kind of like a bread rolled up into a sandwich. She was always sending her good dog, Zeke, over to Mr. Putter's house with a note. The note always said, "Are you hungry?" And Mr. Putter always said, "Yes." So he and Tabby went next door a lot. So Mr. Putter and his cat like to sleep, but it sounds like Mr. Putter also likes to eat, especially his neighbor Miss Teaberry's jelly rolls. But tonight, Mr. Putter had been having such a good time that he lost track and ate 21 jelly rolls. He forgot to count them as he popped them one at a time into his mouth. Before he knew it, 21 jelly rolls were gone and it was time to go home. Does anybody think they know why Mr. Putter was not sleeping like a log tonight? First, he had eaten too many jelly rolls at Mrs. Teaberry's house. So that would really be what we would write in the first box, right? Mr. Putter and his cat usually sleep like logs. But first, Mr. Putter ate too many pineapple jelly rolls at his neighbor, Mrs. Teaberry's house. And so his stomach, let's see, Mrs. Teaberry was happy that Mr. Putter enjoyed her jelly rolls so much. But Mr. Putter's stomach was not. It grumbled and grumbled and grumbled. So the jelly rolls caused him to wake up, right? Mr. Putter looked at his nice soft bed when he got home. Bull. Notice how the author separated all of the letters and made them all capital to really emphasize for us as the reader just what Mr. Putter was feeling in his stomach. Grumbled his stomach. Mr. Putter knew he would not be able to sleep with all that grumbling. What to do? Mr. Putter looked at Tabby. Then he got an idea. So have you ever had your stomach grumble maybe because you ate too many snacks before bed or something that didn't set right in your tummy and then you had a hard time going to sleep? Mr. Putter realized that he was not going to be able to sleep, right? So he got another idea. So first, Mr. Putter ate too many jelly rolls at Mrs. Teaberry's house. Next, Mr. Putter's stomach, even though he liked and enjoyed Mrs. Teaberry's jelly rolls, Mr. Putter's stomach grumbled from eating 21 jelly rolls. That's what happened next, right? So then what happened? And so we're thinking about how to fill out a graphic organizer. Hope you're listening so you can do it. Oops. Did I skip a section? Chapter 3. Let me go back. Chapter 3, Stars. What do you think Mr. Putter's idea is since his tummy's not letting him sleep like a log? Let's go for a walk. And you see the dialogue there? That's one of the ways we know that this is a fiction story because there's dialogue. Mr. Putter said. He put his coat back on. He put his hat back on. He picked up Tabby and out the door they went. It was a beautiful night. The moon was full and moonlight was everywhere. Tabby looked. She listened. She twitched her ears. She twitched her tail. She loved the night. I wonder what made the author repeat those words. She twitched. She twitched. She loved. I think the author wanted us as readers to know Tabby was having a little bit of a hard time, Maybe she was hoping to just snuggle down in bed and sleep like a log. Mr. Putter loved it too, even with a grumbling stomach. Or maybe Tabby was just enjoying being out in the evening and the night and under the stars and the moonlight with her friend, Mr. Putter. Reread. Why is Mr. Putter's stomach grumbling? Reread to check your understanding, and that's an important skill for good readers to always do. Don't just keep reading. Make sure you understand. So we could go back and look and see what it told us, okay? So if we went back, we'd find out because he had eaten too many jelly rolls, right? Then Mr. Putter took Tabby out to look at the night sky. Mr. Putter looked up at the sky. He showed Tabby the stars and he told her all about them. He told her about the Big Dipper. Told her that the Big Dipper was full of milk from the Milky Way. Is that true? He's telling tales, isn't he, to his cat Tabby? Tabby purred. She loved milk. So he's just trying to make this a pleasant time for Tabby since she can't uh, go into her sleep like her and Mr. Putter normally like to do. He told her about looking at stars when he was a boy and how he had always wanted to ride in a rocket ship. He told her how he had always dreamed of adventure. Tabby purred some more. Mr. Putter and Tabby made a nice big circle around the neighborhood. So on your graphic organizer, the first thing was Mr. Putter ate too many pineapple jelly rolls at his neighbor Mrs. T-Body's house. Next, Mr. Putter's stomach was grumbling from eating so many jelly rolls. So what did he do? He came up with the idea. Then he took Tabby out to look at the stars and stroll the neighborhood and tell her all about the night sky and looking at the stars like an adventure. Is that the end yet? They looked at the sky. They looked at the yellow lights of the houses. They looked at cats sitting in windows looking back at them. So a part of that then is they walked around the neighborhood looking at things. And when at last, there's one of the clues for our sequence, they circled back home. They stopped in front of Mrs. T-Berry's house. Mrs. T-Berry and Zeke were on the front lawn. Mrs. T-Berry, what are you doing up? Asked Mr. Putter. So she wondered. It says reread. That's what good readers do. Mr. Putter asked why Mrs. T-Berry is up. Why is Mr. Putter up too? Reread to check your understanding. Why do you think Mrs. T-Berry's up? Did the author tell us? Did the author tell us why she's up? We know why Mr. Putter's up. He's taking Tabby for a walk and around the neighborhood and looking at the night sky. But why is Mrs. T-Berry up? I don't know. Mr. Putter wants to know. So, are we at the end yet? Zeke has a grumbling stomach, said Mrs. T-Berry. Oh, so finally, Mr. Putter and Tabby run into Mrs. T-Berry and her dog Zeke. And together they did what? He ate too many jelly rolls and we can't sleep. So, have you ever had your dog's stomach grumble? You ever heard a dog's stomach? Cats purr, but dogs, sometimes their bellies grumble, right? Mr. Putter and Tabby were delighted. They sat on the lawn with Zeke, Mrs. T-Berry, and Zeke. Mr. Putter's stomach and Zeke's stomach talked to each other while Mr. Putter and Mrs. T-Berry talked to each other. So did the stomachs literally talk to each other? Kind of just played back and forth. Mr. Putter's stomach would grumble bad, and then Zeke's stomach would grumble, almost like they were having a conversation. And that's what Mr. Putter and Mrs. T-Berry were doing. They were having a little conversation, weren't they? They told stories in the moonlight. They told secrets. They made each other laugh. What a great ending to this story. Finally, then when the stomachs on the front lawn stopped grumbling, everyone said good night and went to bed and slept like logs. In the morning, Mr. Putter heard a scratching at the door. He opened it. It was Zeke with a note. The note said, bet you can guess, "Are you hungry?" Mr. Putter smiled. He picked up Tabby, and together they walked next door so the grumbling stomach didn't keep Mr. Putter from going to get some more of Mrs. T-Berry's good food. There's no place like home, the sign says. There's no business like show business. So let's see, is that the final in this story? That is, okay? So how will you fill out your graphic organizer, okay? So I'm going to show you, this is what you have to do. In your packet today, you have to come up with a beginning, a first, a next, a then, and a finally. So towards the end, just give it a minute here. So here's the paper that you will do. So we know first, Mr. Putter ate too many of Mrs. T-Berry's pineapple jelly rolls. Next, Mr. Putter's stomach started to grumbling and he couldn't go to sleep. So he took Tabby out for a walk to look at the night sky and around the neighborhood. Then what happened? They ran into Mrs. T-Berry and her dog Zeke, whose stomach was grumbling. And finally, they sat and enjoyed each other's company through the night and told stories. But really, the end was finally Mr. Putter goes to sleep, and the next day he and Tabby return to Mrs. T-Berry's house for more food, right? So you could almost add another box in here, but don't do that. What do you think were the three main events in the middle of the story? And what do you see as the ending? You may have to write a little small to fit them all in there. And then tomorrow I will share a video before you take your test and show you what a good answer might look like. Not everyone's will be exact though. So it's okay. Just do your best and show me you can follow a little bit of the sequence of a story. Good job, boys and girls. Enjoy reading. Talk to you soon.